This book is beautiful, laced with delightful illustrations and color. It seems to harbor a large amount of knowledge, especially given the content, which details processes like how an organism originates. But if you look closely, it's bogus. For example, look at this tree shaped like a chair, or this three-headed bird, or this fish wearing a transparent helmet-like dome over its head, filled with water and smaller fish inside. You might be confused, so maybe the text would offer more explanation. But yeah, it cannot be read. This book may look beautiful, but it's functionally useless and even meaningless. Its sole function, arguably, is to amuse and confuse those who look at it. This is the Codex Seraphinianus by Luigi Serafini, a book that uses beauty to hide its ridiculousness. Beauty makes things better because it can enhance the human experience by making a less pleasant experience more pleasant, or even making the meaningless feel meaningful. It's not absolutely crucial, since things can still work and function without it. A textbook, for example, is full of knowledge and value, and it doesn't necessarily need to be beautiful to serve its purpose. However, it can be really boring. So to make it bearable, you make it beautiful. You add illustrations, color, and nice designs, and it almost always improves the experience. That's why I think beauty enhances experience. We try to make everything beautiful. We try to have chiseled bodies, slimmer faces. We create beautiful art, shaped by color, light, and shadow, delighting our vision. But the pleasure of beauty doesn't come solely from the visual. It reaches us through other senses too. We listen to beautiful music with soft falsettos, sweet jazzy saxophones, and a whole range of instruments. We love delicious-looking food and the beauty of its flavor. We love beautiful literature and movies. Even when we try to describe reality using equations, mathematicians and physicists often speak of beautiful equations, ones that are simple, elegant, and profound. In biology, beauty is often seen as a sign of good genes, a way to distinguish health from disease, disability, or decline. The human brain rewards beauty by releasing dopamine. In a literal sense, beauty feels good. The result is a beautiful organism. In humans, it goes even further. A beautiful person doesn't just move through life. They're celebrated, they're adored, admired, and praised. And because of that, their experience becomes softer and more pleasant. They're treated like they matter just for existing. That feeling of being wanted and of being seen shapes how they live. It makes life feel a little more beautiful too. Not only does it enhance our experience, but sometimes it feels like we need it. Imagine living in a place where you have everything you need: food, water, shelter, but no beauty. I think somehow something would feel missing. In many parts of the world, that's the reality for a lot of people, and it makes life feel dull or even depressing. Sometimes we need beauty to make life interesting, to distract us from the mundanity and ugliness of the everyday. We need it to feel good. That's why beauty was considered a virtue in ancient times. Our fascination with beauty and how it dazzles us didn't start here. It began long ago. Plato, for example, believed beauty was an abstract concept, existing only in the realm of ideal forms, separate from the physical world. During the medieval period, Saint Augustine saw beauty as a reflection of God's goodness, associating it with the divine. In the modern era, Nietzsche viewed beauty as an expression of the will to power. Nietzsche, for one, believed that beauty helps us cope with the horror of existence, that the truth about the world is bleak, ugly, and challenging, a chaotic and meaningless place. In his view, art becomes the antidote to this despair, a stark contrast to reality. It offers a new way of seeing the world, one that highlights beauty, meaning, and even illusion. But that doesn't mean art is a lie. Rather, it's a way of creating a world that feels bearable, even inspiring. He argued that only through art, through these illusions, can we truly live and experience the world. Naturally, this led him to believe that art can elevate the human experience, provide solace, and help us live meaningfully. It can make life more beautiful and help us find our place in it. John Dewey saw similar things. He believed that art and everyday experience are deeply connected, and because of that, society and art owe each other. For him, works of art are the most energetic and intimate way of sharing in the art of living. He thought civilization is, in a way, uncivil because we're divided into non-communicating sects, races, religions, classes, and cliques. To understand the aesthetic dimension of life, he said, we must begin with the events and scenes of daily experience. He criticized the way we put art on a pedestal, especially what we call fine art or high art, because it severs the bond between art and everyday life, separating it from community and ordinary people. That division can actually do harm by making us overlook the artistic value in daily activities and in the popular arts like movies, newspapers, and jazz, which are what people most often enjoy. It pushes away aesthetic perception from the very things that can bring joy. Art, to Dewey, intensifies the feeling of being alive and highlights what's worth enjoying. Anyone who works with care, whether they're a scientist, mechanic, artist, or craftsman, is artistically engaged, and that's one of the most intense and satisfying human experiences. That's why he believed aesthetic experience is crucial for enriching everyday life. But beauty has an enemy, and that is time, or to be precise, familiarity. Maria Louise Reim, a Victorian novelist, once wrote that familiarity is cruel to beauty, but kind to ugliness. Beauty is like a sedative, soothing and calming. Ugliness, on the other hand, can be disturbing or even violent. However, when we become familiar with something, we tolerate it, and that tolerance can shift into something else. Beauty into indifference, ugliness into affection. Beauty cannot exist without ugliness. If everything were beautiful, nothing would stand out. Beauty owes its very definition to the presence of what we call ugly. Its brilliance born from contrast. Ugliness gives beauty its edge, meaning, and power. So, who lasts longer, beauty or ugliness? Maybe both, in different ways. Ugliness lingers, not always for how it looks, but for how it makes us feel. It can evolve into empathy, affection, and depth. Beauty, on the other hand, risks being dulled by familiarity, but with the right eyes, it can be eternal. Antinous became a god because his beauty captivated an emperor, Hadrian, who loved him so deeply, he made him divine. Marilyn Monroe's beauty endures because we keep reanimating it. Beauty may fade in solitude, but in admiration, it burns forever. Even so, beauty can be dangerously superficial, like moths drawn to a glowing light, not knowing it leads to their death. Its pull is primal, and some have learned to use that pull to deceive. PragerU lures viewers with sleek graphics and polished visuals, even when their messages are misleading. Influencers rise to fame on perfect faces and filtered lives, despite offering little substance or skill beneath the surface. Beauty, when reduced to just a surface, becomes hollow, pleasing to look at, but empty inside. Art is conventionally accepted as beautiful, and it can be ridiculously expensive. But here, beauty becomes a weapon for power. A high price tag doesn't always reflect true value. It's often based on status, scarcity, and speculation. It's part of a luxury market in an elite economy, not a needs-based one. Just like diamonds, art isn't valued for utility, but as a symbol of wealth. Galleries, auction houses like Christie's, and private collectors inflate value through reputation and exclusivity. Some buyers treat art like stocks. They buy it, hold it, and resell it for profit. Many of the most expensive works are never even displayed, just stored away as investment assets. A banana taped to a wall was sold for $120,000, not because it was great art, but because the artist is famous. The setting, Art Basel Miami, gave it legitimacy, and a collector decided the concept was worth the price. It feels deeply unfair, especially in a world where people go hungry, where basic needs are unmet, and where even many artists can't afford to live off their work, that some pieces are sold for millions. It reveals the deep inequality in how we assign value, not just in art, but across society. Art can be just a human expression, something emotional and intimate, but in the hands of markets and elites, it becomes currency, a trophy, a weapon of identity, a performance of superiority. That's why it can feel hollow and enraging, because beauty, as dazzling as it is, can also be a source of suffering. Beauty may feel good for the ones who have it, but for those who don't, the world can feel harsh, especially in a world that rewards beauty. In trying to chase it, people push themselves through extreme diets, intense workouts, and impossible standards, sometimes harming their own bodies. And when they fail to meet those expectations, they're often pulled into a deep dark void. There's a subreddit called Ugly, where people talk about what it feels to be perceived as ugly. And it's pretty heartbreaking. And yeah, it's ugly. Many of them believe that beauty is the only thing that matters. On the surface, that might seem true, but you are not just your looks. Over time, if you keep being kind and compassionate, people will begin to see you for who you really are. But that doesn't mean ugly people have to be extra kind just to make up for being ugly. That's not fair. They deserve to be treated like anyone else. And beautiful people shouldn't be praised or excused just because they look good. Beauty isn't a pass for being a good person. We should treat people based on who they are, not how they look. Beauty can't be seen as innocent, especially when it's accompanied by moral evil. In 2007, a video titled "The World's Ugliest Woman" went viral. It showed Lizzie Velasquez, who was only 17 at the time, born with one blind eye and a rare disorder that prevents her from gaining weight. People called her a monster and even told her to end her life. In response, she created a documentary against cyberbullying in 2015, forcing us to question what ugly really means and whether it's better applied to the accusers themselves. What makes it even sadder is that beauty isn't real in any objective sense. Outside the human world, beauty doesn't exist. Animals don't care how you look. They may have their own instincts for attraction, but your cat or dog will love you regardless of how you appear. They don't judge. But animals are not human. As much as they love us, they can't care for us in the way other people can. That's why it hurts even more to know that humans who are capable of so much more often place so much weight on beauty and let it decide how we treat each other. Someone can be the best looking person in the room and still be the most boring or the rudest. So maybe it's time to look at beauty and ugliness in a new light. The word ugly has medieval Norse roots that mean to be feared or dreaded. Ugliness is often associated with the monstrous, grotesque, deformed, freakish, or disabled. In Western culture, it's seen as the opposite of beauty, something to be avoided or corrected. But in other cultures, the idea of ugliness isn't always negative. Wabi-sabi, a Japanese concept, values imperfection and impermanence. While it doesn't celebrate ugliness outright, it finds beauty in things that are rough, aged, or asymmetrical, things that might be dismissed as ugly elsewhere. In ancient Greece, ugliness was linked to evil, disgrace, and disability. While there were exceptions like the wise but unattractive philosopher Socrates or Aesop, the deformed slave known for his fables, these cases were rare. Physical appearance was often treated as a mirror of the soul, and deformities were seen not just as misfortunes, but as signs of inner corruption or punishment from the gods. This belief was reinforced by physiognomy, a pseudoscience that claimed a person's moral character could be read from their face. The idea that an ugly face reflects an ugly heart has lasted far longer than it should. Even today, in movies and media, villains are often portrayed with disfigured or exaggerated features, while heroes are almost always beautiful. We like to think we've moved beyond such biases, but beauty still plays a silent role in how we judge worth. During the 18th and 19th centuries, ugly and deformed were used interchangeably so often that William Hay, a British member of Parliament, tried to break the association between the two. Born with a hunchback, he argued that a deformed body does not mirror an ugly soul. But during this period, ugliness was turned into a spectacle. It was displayed in freak shows, anatomy museums, and world fairs. Human specimens were exhibited like objects, and ethnic displays turned real people into living curiosities. These practices reinforced damaging ideas about appearance, worth, and difference. In the 20th century, ugliness became politicized and weaponized. The First World War challenged the old notions of ugliness as new weapons rendered once beautiful young men disfigured by grenades, mustard gas, and tanks. Some of these soldiers, called broken faces, banded together to use their injuries as a form of moral testimony, reclaiming dignity through visibility. But by the 1930s, Nazi Germany turned ugliness into a justification for mass violence. They used the term degenerate to persecute and exterminate entire groups, targeting those who did not fit their narrow ideals of beauty and purity. In times of conflict, this becomes easy to do. Any feature, curly hair, dark-skinned, a crooked nose, can be labeled ugly, because ultimately, the word ugly reflects less about the thing it describes and more about the person who uses it. Beauty can elevate, deceive, distract, or soothe. It softens suffering and gives meaning where there is none. But beauty is also fleeting and fragile, and sometimes even cruel. It's not truth, nor kindness, nor meaning. And for something so celebrated, it can feel so empty. We use it to define worth, to justify cruelty, to build systems that reward surfaces over substance. But the truth is, beauty isn't real in the way we think it is. It's a feeling, not a fact. And outside of how we perceive it, it doesn't really exist. What actually matters is how we treat each other, regardless of how we look or what we own, but who we are, especially when no one's watching. Maybe beauty was never meant to be possessed, but simply noticed, something to be appreciated instead of worshipped. And maybe the real beauty isn't in what we look at, but in how we choose to look. Thanks for watching and sticking around till the end. Also, thank you so much to my patrons for supporting me. It really means a lot. You can check out my Patreon for extra content. This video took a lot of time and thought to make, so if you made it here, I really appreciate it. I hope it gave you something to think about, or at least made you see beauty a little differently. Let me know what you think. I always love reading your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this, feel free to share, like, or just come back next time. Lately, life has been kind of overwhelming. Work, friends, family, everything's been pulling me in different directions, and it's pretty exhausting. That's part of why this video took so long to finish, but I didn't want to rush it, even though I slightly did. So again, thank you for your patience, your support, and for being here. It makes all the difference. Until then, take care of yourself and be kind to others and to yourself too. Bye.